Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Bob's Angels, episode 33 now. So, yeah, this episode, as we said last time, we're going to be setting up the first oil outpost. So we start dismantling the old oil mining because it's not really bringing us very much in the slightest. I probably could stick them back on later with some speed modules and efficiency modules, or productivity modules, sorry. But I'm probably not going to bother. We'll have a few outposts bringing in far more oil than we'll need, hopefully, in the future. And to be honest, that area I wanted for the slag processing / the ferric chloride production area. I'm actually considering moving the ferric chloride solution production south of the bus, along with the oil refining and thermal water refining. So we keep all the liquids down there, and then we just pass it over that bit of the bus. Maybe even get the bots to barrel it on a later date once they're a bit better at it. But for now, I'll just leave it as is. As the area where the ferric chloride solution is where the slag processing is going to be, crushed stone, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to need quite a bit of space, as it generally gets quite big depending on how much slag and crushed stone we need to process. And, of course, the geodes. Although we've done most of the processing for the geodes that's there. The rest of it's going to be done in the bot automated bit, but we'll see. So we head up the north line, as there's a couple of oil patches directly on the line. This is partly why I brought it up here straight to the sapphirite, as this is already nicely placed for the first oil depot, so we can get straight into it this episode. Start working out where the station's going to be, but I eventually mess up the entrance and sort of move it back a bit. But we work out where the exit can be, and then how long that needs to be and where the entrance is going to be. I don't know if I put too many signals or not enough around here. It's kind of a bit odd, but with experience of watching the trains, if it ever causes a problem, we can add more, and if there's too many, it's never going to hurt. Unless, of course, it causes some sort of a jam, which I don't think it will. But we'll find out at some point. And we also have the exit signal, so we can control when to send the train if there's too much crude. I'm enjoying the circuit conditions across the network, though. That's really cool. I've not done that before. I used to have either individual loading stations, so the train would get stuck if it ever got full, and that would be the way to control it. Or if it was an omni-bot station, I would just see that the storage would have an absurd amount of any kind of or whatever, and I would manually stop it that way. So having this in is fantastic, and I don't have to go to the outpost to adjust how much ore we want coming through, which is brilliant. To begin with, I didn't quite understand the necessity of having a constant combinator, and then as soon as I realized or was informed exactly what it was for, it made a lot of sense. Why not have it in? And yeah, it's great. The only thing I've never been that great at is fluid stations. I do want to do one in this. I don't want to do barreling. I do like the rail tanker, but again, it would be controlled by how much crude there is, and if it was full at the depot, it would just sit there until it was unloaded. But it would sort of unload equally. You don't really have to balance unloading. It's the loading that was never really balanced. So I had a quick look online before starting recording to see if there's anything about, if anyone's got just a quick design for a nice basic 4-way liquid balancer. Couldn't find anything initially. There might be something out there still, so I may have another look afterwards, but I thought let's just try and come up with something really random and see if it works. So each rail tanker, or once we get the rail tanker on the track, will have 2 of the tanks each, which should be more than enough to load it. It doesn't matter that the pumps on the opposite side will get less fluid on the near side, as they're both loading the same tanker. It's the fact that each of the 4 stages are all kept separate. That's where the balancing should work. So I'm just going to do a basically double of what the 2-way pipe sort of balancer works. So we'll split this into 4 here. Now the next bit, I can't work out if I actually need it or not. I then split it across the 2 tanks, even though they're both connected to each other. It's basically because if I connect it all into one, I think one tank always has more fluid in the other. So I don't know if the circuit conditioner will enable the pumps, but 2 of the pumps will have more available fluid than the other. So I then put in a two-way splitter and then the same circuit condition again. So it should the pumping should sort of stay equal, I hope. I don't know. We'll test it for a bit and see how it goes when the fluids drop down or whatever. I'll occasionally keep an eye on it. So we then lay the pipes out for the pumps because we want a bit of fluid into those tanks before we start powering the pumps, just to do as a little test. So I lay it all out with one pipe. I think this may be all right. If we come up and put beacons in and speed modules and whatever, we might need to add a bit extra piping or change it for higher throughput. But I power it in a way that we'll power the two-way splitter on last. So we give it a chance to fill up, and then it looks like it hit it fairly equally. Then what I do is I hook up two of the stations on either side separately, just so I can monitor what's in them. And they are filling up quite quickly, but it does look like they're filling up fairly equally. And then I can't remember how to get the green circuit off there, the shift right click or whatever it is, doesn't seem to be working. So I end up just leaving it because I'll probably come and check it again another day, maybe monitor it a bit in between episodes. But it kind of looks like that's working. If anyone wants to tell me if they've got anything better or if they have a reason why that's not going to work, then that would be much appreciated. But I do drive off, forgetting to hook up power to the derrick on the other side of the track. So we come back to the file station as the requester chest that I set up when we were leaving has a bit of resource in it now. I did forget to mention I was putting that there, but that will be one of the requesters that requests the stuff for the file train. The second carriage will carry things like miners, derricks, pipes or whatever, that sort of thing, inserters for building stations. I then go and grab some engines to build the two engines or train engines for the oil train, as we only had enough on us for the tankers, not the actual engines. And then we head down to where the unloading depot is for the crude. And we use file just to clear the trees for us and get it up there nicely. Putting in the circuit network for us as well, so we give the train some circuit wiring as well, only just enough to get up there. We also have to read the blueprints yet again, but it's hopefully going to be for the last time because I don't have to pick file up anymore. It's got its own station and we don't want it to forget our particular design, which isn't really much different from the default. It's just if you don't, the signals aren't always parallel, and that drives me nuts if it's not, because I'm weird like that. And we've brought the signal up here so we can take a reading of how much crude we'll have in the tanks. So this is where the unloading's going to be. I could probably move it down a little bit, but this is just right for the track to pass just north of the Crotinium patch that's east of us. Again, Crotinium not sounding right. I'm probably saying it wrong again, but yeah, every time I look it up, I just forget. And me and pronunciation and whatnot, and general grammar is just awful, so apologies if I ever get spelling wrong. For example, biter, I've been spelling bitter. I'm just a bit dyslexic and I just don't notice those sort of things, so apologies there. It does look a bit stupid, but yeah, oh well. Anyway, so we get laying out with the crude depot. Like I said, it could maybe be further south, as we're going to need to expand the oil refining area at some point. We're going to use probably more than this is capable of doing, although we may be able to beacon it by the time we need it. And just speed this one up. I don't know. We'll see. So while we do that, I can just go through the couple of things that I went and did in between episodes. A little bit of tidying up here and there as the sorting area gets laid out by the factory. I also did some more solar and accumulators to try and get ahead of what we're using, so we can get through the night and not use any coal, and then get even further ahead than that, so that we can start putting lasers in as soon as we get the polishing of the gems and rubies and whatnot, because Mark 1 sniper turrets don't need them, but they're not going to be strong enough for what we need to rely on them completely. Another thing I did, which was the stuff for file, where we set the requester chest up earlier, but in between episodes I placed things like track production, signal production, those sorts of things over in the bot automated bit, so that those things can all be done by the factory and I never really have to worry about crafting them. If I ever want to set up a new outpost of liquid or of an ore, I just take file with me and it'll have everything in it. I haven't set up the requests for things like miners or inserters. We'll do that in a bit. when I know the area's all finished and set up. I think it's finished making all the stack inserters for the stations, so we should actually be good to have all 4 ore stations available. We just don't need them at the moment. In fact, looking at how fast late game one of those stations can unload a train, I don't think we'll ever need 4 of them, so we've definitely got enough resilience there. So we've got the depot pretty much set up. I come up with the now created tanker train with the Mark II engines, because this one does have to take the longest trip between outpost and depot out of all the trains, so it's worth getting that upgraded straight away. I'll look at upgrading the others at a later date, probably up to Mark IIIs though, at which point I'll colour them for their certain ore, just so that I know it's been upgraded, and then we know which outpost it's for, just because you can. There's no real reason to do it. And we come and check unloading, and for some reason the back one doesn't unload, and I get a bit confused. Then I stick them in and think, well, those other 2 should have worked. And then I realised all the pumps on the south side of the train are facing the wrong way, so it started pumping it back in the train there. But it seemed to empty it at a pretty decent speed, considering these are just Mark II pumps. We then get a pump to help pressure and getting it up to these 2 tanks. I'll leave those 2 buffer tanks in just as a quick visual indicator of how well we're doing for oil. But I haven't got enough circuit network on me. I believe we requested some rubber at some point, because I thought there was some in the base somewhere, but it never did arrive. So I just quickly make some here rather than running up. And we can also have a look and see how the refining's going, and they're all running, which is great. We'll have to look at upgrading these facilities soon. I believe the Mark IIs are already available, or will soon be available. I know we've got the material to make them, so as soon as plastic becomes an issue again, it'll probably be down to processing speed, and we'll have a look at upgrading this area, maybe increasing its size. And then I realised we don't need this signal connected to the circuit network. It's the depot that needs connecting. I was going to put the signal for the constant from the constant combinator, up at the other depot, and just use that one because it's got space for it. And then I thought, let's just stick it here. Being as this is where it's coming, we'll put it in down here. So we get some more circuit cable produced, and then I believe we get a constant combinator on the go as well. I then look at what other research we could do that we genuinely need, because research at the moment is very expensive, but I just leave it at lab research speed 3 at the moment. I mean, to be honest, we probably don't even need lab research speed 3. It's kind of a bit of pointless, because we're not building it fast enough for them to even research fully at the moment, so that's a bit silly, but I just leave it in anyway. It's nice to have a bit of science going, at least after the very long drought we've had, drought being a drought of no science. And we get the circuit condition put in, and then I mess up calling the train, or the oil train won't come. Then we bring Fal, then Fal randomly tries to go here when we tell it to go back, because then I realise why the oil train's working. It was because of that signal condition we put in, I think. Or was it lack of the combinator? That was it. It was lack of combinator signal giving us a minus value of how much oil we want to cancel out. Then I realised that once I'd already asked for Fal, but I somehow timed it so that it just screwed the whole thing over, basically. And we take the train back down just to double check how long it takes to unload. And it looks like a pretty good rate. And it seems to do it equally as well. All the carriages emptied at the same time. Then I take a very risky move and jump out of the train at near full speed. Those Mark II trains go pretty fast, considering there's 2 engines pulling it the same way. So when we get to the next tier of trains, they get pretty rapid, which is great. If we have any outposts really far away, we can get about there quickly, so long as the biters aren't actually destroying the track to get in and out. I then come and use the coal train after sorting out the coal miners to get back to the depot. But while we were setting up the oil depot, there were a few attacks up in the north which we need to come and sort out. So I leave the coal train at the station and I call the Sapphirite train down. This is what I love about having a train network, is you can just call trains down whenever you want. Now that we've got that GUI, well, that's been there for a while now, and just catch trains to wherever you need to go. It's great. I love it. You know, it's a bit late now. I'm kind of even tempted to make trains smaller, just so they're having to run around a lot more, just to make it look cool. So we come up and we replenish some of these turrets. These will only have to survive a little bit longer. We're maybe three episodes maximum off from being able to start implementing laser turrets. I was a bit reluctant to begin with, but if we have sufficient power, they should be our primary form of defense, because it's getting pretty brutal up here at the Sapphirite with this pollution cloud. We need to be mining this much to keep up with our demands of iron. In fact, I think we need more iron than this as it is, so we're going to need to do some combination of Javolite and Sapphirite, which means we're probably going to need a second Javolite patch. Maybe we could increase the mining down there, but I think it would be more efficient in terms of energy and pollution to push out to this next patch just northeast of us. There's also another one northwest of us, so we can expose that one. And there's another 2 Sapphirites nearby and a third one not too much further. So the quicker I can get to some power armor, the much easier it is going to be to clear this area. I can make a ridiculously nice expanse of just cleared land. We can fill it all with solar and accumulator, and have lots of free energy and get we're going to need a few infinite patches to keep up with late game demand, but we're starting to get there. This sorting area's taken a while to build due to my barbaric nature of placing it and just getting the factory to do it, but it is sort of working, and it's indicating which resources we need to catch up on. So I come and have a look at putting in the crushed stone removal for Javolite, because it's getting relatively close to blocking the system, and we also max out the Javolite crushing, which will definitely speed up the production of crushed stone. But we've cleared most of the crushed stone out from the Sapphirite chest. There was a lot in there, but we're now just running at normal capacity, so it should be fairly safe to run this through. We've got room for several belts of this stuff, so we should always have enough throughput, especially when we get into the purple green belt level. It should be plenty. We shall see. We've got room for more if we shift some things over. That's what's great about using these warehouses. It gives you lots of inputs, outputs. You might not need the capacity, but the space is always handy. With it being a single entity, they make great sorting chests combined with the loaders. So I help get rid of the last of the geodes up by placing my stuff in a warehouse, pick the geodes up to put in the car, because I don't really need these warehouses here. They can be placed, or the buffer point can be down here where they're being processed, and it's nice and close to where we can take a reading just so that we know how much we've got. And I dump that in there, having to empty my inventory out again. We also noticed we've finally finished mining the starting patch of bobmonium, and we're not far off with the rubite either. So at some point we're going to have to put a patch in when the ore runs low. We have got loads in storage at the moment. So I decided to take the bobmonium belts out after the episode, because there's one more thing I want to get done before the end. We get attacked yet again up there. That's going to be quite a problem, those biters up in the Sapphirite. It's just got to last a little bit longer until we get those laser turrets, and then I'll do something more permanent up there. Maybe even stick in a military train anyway, just for repair packs and replacing destroyed walls or turrets. It could still exist, just not bother having to do ammunition. I don't know. Maybe have ammo turrets still as a backup, but we'll see if I can be bothered. Which my botheredness relies on how relevant actually it is doing it. Is there going to be a benefit? I can be a bit lapsed with power sometimes, so maybe it is a good idea to have a backup. And we also look at putting in the buffer chest for copper. Again, just so we can take a reading of how much we've got and buffer it in case it's ever needed in the circuit, which I don't think it is like iron ore is with the ferric. I've got to stop saying ferret. Chloride production. We just keep a little buffer in there so that the logistics can access any iron if it ever needs to. So the last thing I wanted to do is get the first stage of the gem refining or ruby refining. Yeah, we just looked at it, but it was too fast for me to read it. That thing anyway, for the 6 kinds of gems and rubies and whatnot for lasers and other bits and bobs, because we've started crushing the geodes, and then I use the logistics system to essentially sort it for us, and we just request them into over here. It's not too far for them to travel. When they get quicker and a higher grade, it becomes less and less of an issue. and we won't really be using that many to begin with, so it shouldn't be too much of a burden for them or a power drain. The other thing I wanted to talk about before the end of the episode is just the recording of the series, really. I've been trying to get ahead on these recordings because I'm going away for 2 weeks. I actually go away tomorrow, but this video is going to be scheduled to come out on the 21st, which is actually around the day that I come back. So for me, I'm not going to be doing another video for about 2 weeks, but for you guys, I'll probably be bringing another video out tomorrow or the day after. So apologies if there's been any comments and then me doing commentary that kind of contradicts with those comments or vice versa. This just means that episodes can come out regularly while I'm away, and then we can carry on with the factory when I get back. And hopefully if I have enough time, I can get back to doing one episode every day, because I'm anxious to get to late game. I'm really enjoying this factory. It's definitely a lot better than my last one, because of course this one is following a similar design, but it's learning from all those lessons that I learned in the last one, or hopefully more of them. I might go and have another look at that factory when I get back and just see where any of the other problems are and see if we can accommodate them. So we set up a last little bit of research that we'll do next episode. But that's going to be all we have time for this episode. I do hope you have enjoyed. Please do come and join me in 2 weeks or in a couple of days, or a day for you guys. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Hopefully see you next time. Bye-bye.